Hey there, I'm Kieran Dioria with Point A Coaching and Consulting. I help high performers accelerate their family happiness without sacrificing their business success. Hey, I want to spend a couple minutes today talking about some cognitive shortcuts that we can employ to frankly make things easier. So we'll take a few minutes talking about heuristics today. I'll define what they are. We're not going to get too deep. Mainly today, I just want to remind you about these things being out there. And I want this to serve as a prelude for what I'm doing next week, where we get a little bit deeper and tap into what those can really do for us. So some quick info on this. And we've got a couple comments coming in here. And yes, my old friend Jim's chiming in with some inappropriate commentary. So it's always nice to have the support of good friends. Thank you. Thank you for that. But hey, let's get started. Let's talk about lightening the load with heuristics. And what are these things? Long story short, heuristic or heuristic technique, it's really any approach to problem solving where we take a very practical path to an immediate solution. It may not be really elegant. It might not be optimal. It's probably far from perfect. Might not be rational, might be a little bit silly, but this is something that we would use in the absence of other forms of information to get to an immediate goal. So some examples of a heuristic technique would be someone using a guesstimate to evaluate something, or maybe somebody using some kind of shortcut tool to give them a rough idea of what they're dealing with in a given situation. Another example of heuristic technique would be someone using their intuition, for example, which is what we're going to talk about more. Again, in the absence of other forms of data, person uses this to help achieve a goal. That's just a basic idea of a heuristic technique. So we're going to focus in on heuristics specific to intuition today. And I'm bringing this up because we're definitely living in a data-driven society. I totally get that. And hey, data is a good thing. It's great to have this much information. But I would say for high performers, for example, we're presented with a lot of data, and it's often very curated. I'll use an example next week in detail, but I like to think about using GPS or navigation in a car. Present company included, or specifically, man, I'm almost lost without that stuff now. And I had an experience a couple weeks back where I couldn't use it. And wow, I was surprised that I was actually able to get where I was going without having Google Maps or my GPS in my car tell me how to do it. So I just bring it up because I think we find, or we often land on the most available, the most easy, the most digestible information. And frankly, that's information that's usually available to everybody. For example, a GPS, everyone can get that information, or Google Maps. Everyone is looking at it. Everyone's seeing the same thing. And that's great if you're all trying to get to the family reunion together. But in other aspects or other applications, let's say we're in a competitive work situation and we need to win, I prefer to go to a higher rent form of information. And we'll talk about some of those things. But for today, let's get a little reminder on intuition. I'll give you some background, and we'll take it from there. So again, intuition, one way, as any other heuristic technique, to lighten the cognitive load of something that we're involved in. Just even if it's a silly way that expands our thinking beyond traditional thinking, it can really take us a very good distance. And this is just, again, one of many signs that are available to us. But let's talk about intuition. We've got a few types of it. I want to credit some of my training with IPEC with some of this detail. Good stuff here. But types of intuition, visual intuition. Intuition is going to be very much based on our senses. So let's talk about clairvoyance or visual intuition. You'll hear people say, I saw where this was going an hour ago. And it's not necessarily because like they had a visual cue about it, but they interpreted something, some information came their way, and then they kind of knew. Accurate or not, but they saw what was happening well in advance of what actually happened, right? Auditory, our sense of hearing, clairaudience. How many times have we heard people say, I had a little voice telling me to not ride the bus that day, and I listened to it, and I avoided that thing that happened on the commute that day. So that's an example of clairaudience, where somebody has just an auditory piece of information come their way, part of intuition. Some fun ones based on our sense of smell or taste: clairolfactorance and clairgustinance. I don't know that I've experienced these personally, but and I've heard people say, "Man, I could smell fear." Right? It's just this. What was going on? Didn't pass a sniff test. Right? These might be cliches, but there might be an example of folks who tapped into that intuitive capability for themselves. Clairgustinance, this based on our sense of taste. I've heard people say, I could taste victory. We're so close to, I can taste it. And again, might be some rote words or figure of speech now, but at some point, for one form of intuition, maybe folks could taste some kind of outcome coming their way. Those are some different ones. Last couple here, we'll talk about sense of touch or feeling or emotions, clairsentience. Sometimes you just feel what's happening around. You just have a feeling. How many times have we heard that? I just had a feeling. It's not a voice in our head. It's not any kind of vision. It's just a feeling. Like, wow, it was time for me to leave that party before the cops arrived or whatever. And then finally, claircognizance. This is just intuition based on our knowledge. We just kind of know. For example, how many times have we seen some people interact and we know what's going on in that relationship? We may not be able to put it into verse or get really detailed about what's going on, but we know that couple's in trouble. How many times have you seen that? So an example of claircognizant, or just that sense of knowing. So that's your guided tour of intuition. Again, one of many heuristic techniques. I will say, we'll get into some more detail, but this is something that I think either through conditioning or maybe sometimes we don't have the confidence to trust it. We do tend to ignore our intuition. And I'm not saying that we always should cruise around feeling our way through reality. It may not take us too far, but I think we've all had times where we've had an example of intuition hit, and we've either have listened to it and we've thought, man, glad I did that, or we've ignored it and we say, man, I knew that was happening and I still didn't do this. So just something to think about. Me personally, I've got some big regrets on the times I've missed out on intuitive hits. Enemies of intuition, again, doubt. The first thing that's going to come up and diffuse some of our intuitive capabilities is doubt, right? Also, skepticism. This stuff is not, it's not in black and white, right? So it's something that we either are jiggy with as individuals, or maybe we're not, right? And then, of course, logic. Folks will tell you, intuition is coming from our heart or our gut, right? Not necessarily our head. So if you try to apply logic to intuitive hits, probably not going to be too successful. It's probably going to create that doubt and dissuade you from using that heuristic technique. So that is what I wanted to cover today. Let me close with my thanks for listening. And I just want to share that, hey, there are so many sources of information out there, so many signs, so many things we can look to. I'm here to encourage you to tap into everything that's available to you. As a high performer, for example, life is not easy. We have huge demands on us. And the more tools we can bring to bear for our success, obviously, the better. So let me close on that. Again, I'm Kieran DiOrio from Point A Coaching and Consulting. I am available for one-on-one coaching, so you'll see all my contact information here on my channel. Please reach out if I can assist in any way. And again, you high performers who want to align your personal happiness with all that business success, give me a call and we can talk about how we can do that. Thanks.